Welcome to another edition of Depth of Field. My name is Eric, and I'm very excited because my guest today is a very talented, fantastic, masterful director and producer, someone who I worked with first back, what are we, okay, so 7 years ago, back in 2012. This is Martha Kehoe.
Hi.
Did I actually pronounce it? I've never even said your last name out loud.
People don't. They're afraid to.
It's Kehoe?
No, yeah, it's Kehoe.
Kehoe. There we go. Martha and
standard.
we worked together in 2012 on Match Game, the Canadian version. You were the producer.
Yeah.
I was the researcher. And then since then, you've done some amazing stuff. Most notably, very recently, you directed a great movie called If You Could Read My Mind, a documentary about Gordon Lightfoot.
Yeah. Well, I actually co-directed it. A friend of mine, or like a colleague, we've worked together for many years. Joan Tassoni and I directed and produced it together. Back in the day, I was more on the writing side and then became a producer. Like, we worked together. She hired me on my first job, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we've known each other for like since the mid '80s. So we've worked together a lot. So we just said, oh, let's just do both roles. Like, let's just take both credits and we'll just totally do it as a collaborative. So it was fun. We did a good job making that work.
Oh, I thought you meant we did a good job. It's a great movie. You should go see it.
No, but it's also, people say, well, how can you both be directors and producers? And it's like, well, you know, you got to know each other and you got to know your strengths. And we were both old. We were so friggin' old that we were like, oh, thank God there's another person here because I can't go in till noon. Like, can you go in at 9? Okay, fuck, thank God, because.
Well, so okay, so take me through, you know, from inception to creation. How did this movie come to be?
Well, you know, we have had ties with Gordon for a long time, and Insight, the company that we produced the film for, has had a lot of ties with Canadian music. And in fact, the first production that one of our executive producers, John Brunton, he was the owner of Insight. And he produced a show like 1980 called Heart of Gold. And it was a 3-part documentary on TV about Canadian sort of rock and pop music.
Oh,
1980.
Okay.
And like I watched it at home in my like parents' den. And honestly, I was such a music nerd. Like, it was just pathetic. And I was just like, man, I would love to do a show like that someday. Like, that's the kind of TV I want to make. Like, it was just like Nerd City. I was there.
This was pre-Much Music. This was pre.
Yeah. And also, it was a time like when. Just the fact that he had the balls to put together something that said, hey, Canadian music is great. Like, that was an unheard of concept because people just looked down on Canadian music so much, or like there was just a feeling we're not as good, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, I can't explain it now. Luckily, you guys don't have that feeling. You guys are just like, man, Canadian musicians are the best, you know? You've grown up with that.
But would you say, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but would you say that applies to Canadian movies and TV? Do we still have that inferiority complex that we used to have about music, now about TV?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do because we're still trying to get there, you know? It's been a little bit harder, but, and I think that key support was withdrawn right at the moment that we needed it. Like, like for instance, in, you know, the past few years I've done a lot of reality, what they call factual TV, and most, you know, civilians call it reality. But we call it factual TV, and that's an area, or a genre, let's say, where there's been a level playing field, because in the States they don't make those shows for a lot of money either.
Right.
So you have your cooking shows, you got HG and all that. At one point, Canadian shows were dominating the American networks.
No.
You know,
really?
Yeah, for sure. The woman who was the head of HG US was actually picked from Toronto to go to New York, and there was like a ton of shows on the air that were all Canadian made, Canadian talent. And then that was right around 2008, just destroyed it all. That's when they took the...
was that Harper and his massive cuts?
Yeah. Well, they actually did stuff to placate the cable owners.
Oh, right. Yeah, because everyone's in bed together, except us viewers.
Well, Shaw was pretty big, and he was pretty big in the West, and Harper, that was his seat of power. I don't want to get into that too much. I don't want to be assassinated for this show, Eric.
Right. Well, then let's talk about Gordon Lightfoot. So, I mean,
yeah.
Tell me about the first time you met him.
Well, I don't want to tell you that.
I think you just did.
But I don't want to tell you about that. But yeah, no, I'm just joking. I was a coffee and muffin person on the Junos, and it was Junos 1985, and it was quite the affair back then. They did it in a hotel like ballroom.
We should say for those watching who are not Canadian, the Junos are basically the Canadian
music awards. They're
the
music
Grammys
awards
of Canada.
Yeah, exactly. But we used to, you know, again, we've built those up to be something pretty great. I actually was the producer of the Junos when we first did it in the, like in a, what do you call them? Big concert hall.
Like a stadium or an arena?
Right. Thank you. Can you help me with my vocabulary as we go through the interview? Because words I can't remember.
You produced the Junos?
Yeah, I was like the co-producer of the Junos
amazing.
for 6 years. Yeah.
So are you, I mean, you're primarily a music fan.
That's why I got into TV, actually. 2 reasons. I was just like a real big music fan from the very, very beginning. Like I remember listening to Satisfaction on the radio and feeling like weird about it. I was 5 years old. You know what I mean? Like it really, music just like came into my head from an early age. And then where I lived in Ottawa, you know, it was like the most Edward Scissorhands type of suburb possible. Like it was just so that. But we had a TV station not far from where I lived because we lived just on the outskirts and there was kind of a bit of an industrial area. And anyway, there was a TV station there and I used to go see game shows there, actually. It was back in the day and they were actually produced by Montreal companies, but they used the TV facilities that they had in Ottawa. Like I've seen, Alex Trebek did a show from there, like when my sisters were teenagers, he did like a dance, Saturday dance or something it was called, Saturday Date.
Someone's got to find clips of that.
Yeah, you can't find it because it was on CTV and CTV just never kept any archive, barely any.
Alex Trebek hosting. Like
yeah, and he would have been like, kind of like same age as my sister, you know, probably 19 or.
Oh my God.
I had quite older siblings.
Do you know Alex, by the way?
Alex Trebek?
Yeah.
I don't, you know, at all. I'm a huge Jeopardy fan.
Yeah.
But when I married my now ex, when I got married, he was working on a show that Alex Trebek was the host of. And it was in the early days of reality. It was a show called Heart of Courage. And it was all individual stories of heroism and people that had saved other people's lives or sacrificed their own lives and stuff. It was about heroes. And Alex used to do the wraparounds. Like he'd intro them. He'd intro them in a weird way.
I'm going to show a clip of maybe one of your early TV forays.
Oh yeah, okay, sure.
This is, and when we first met, I had no idea that you were involved with this show. This to me is such Canadian, like it doesn't get more Canadiana than this. Let's just roll the clip and see if any of our chatters, I should mention it. It's the, it's not Match Game. And it's not Gordon Lightfoot. So let's say it's the last clip of. Sure. Yeah, there we go. So let's play this and see if any of our commenters can guess what the name of this show was. And
my God, they would have to be old commenters.
Well,
you never know.
They're very smart, our commenters.
Okay.
No, let's start full picture, and then maybe we'll go picture in picture to get Martha's take on some of the wonderful goings on. All right, here we go.
He always pointed like that.
So the Tommy
Each
Hunter
night.
show. This, I mean, how many years did this run?
Well, it was, my first show was the 20th anniversary, the first one I worked on. And I think it went, I did to the 25th anniversary. I think they did over 30 years.
So for an American or for a non-Canadian, you know, is this the equivalent of the Johnny Cash show?
I don't think you'd ever say that because of who Johnny Cash is.
Right.
Right away, no.
but at the time when Johnny Cash was doing the Johnny Cash show, was it, like it was a variety show?
Yeah, it was. Well, to be honest, this show was a little bit later, but when I first started working on this show, the producer of it was a guy named Les Pouliot. And Les Pouliot had written the Johnny Cash show. He was a writer on it because it was actually produced by a Canadian called Stan Jacobson. And Stan had worked at CBC and stuff, and they had done a lot of music TV because CBC, they used to let people do stuff a lot in the early days.
Not so much anymore.
And it was just a little more experimental. Like I'm talking early on, like Norman Jewison and Stan, he would have done everything. So actually, Les Pouliot, the producer of this show, that he had written the Johnny Cash show. So they were in fact similar in terms of
the idea that
the formatting and all of that wasn't, and also less. He was actually Red Shea's brother.
Who?
Red Shea is Lightfoot's first guitar player.
Oh, really?
That we talk about in the film. So Les and Red. Oh, here's Waylon.
Yeah, can we hear it? Is there volume? I don't think there's any sound on this clip. Oh, there's no sound on the clip. Oh, my
that's
goodness.
too bad.
Well,
they're singing "Only Daddy That'll Walk the Line."
I mean, that's Merle. That's Merle.
This is Waylon's song.
Oh, sorry, Waylon Jennings'
See, that was
song.
how it worked. This is how it worked. By this time, I was writing this show.
Yeah.
So Tommy came out, and you try to pick a song that Tommy could sing. He always sang covers.
Right.
So you pick a song of Waylon's that Tommy could sing. It had to be up-tempo. It had to have a certain kind of vibe because it was the opening of the show. Like, it couldn't be sad. It had to be kind of some kind of positive vibes. And he'd sing the first part, like around maybe 1:30, and then he'd go, "Hey, we got a great show for you, blah, blah, blah." And then he'd go, "Look what we have here, a Waylon Jennings." And then they'd sing the song together. So one of the things as being the writer of the show, like, I mean, I started picking people up at the airport. And then 2 years later, I was writing the show.
Oh, man.
Like with co-writing with the producer. He was like, he was bringing me along because, again, it was like, honestly, when I got this job, Joni hired me. She was the director. She's a multicam director, and that's how she had just been bumped up from, she'd been the script assistant in the studio, and they had this other guy director that they really didn't like, and they just got rid of him, and Les said, "Why don't you do it?" And so she was the director of this show, and Les was the producer, this guy that was Red Shea's brother, and he had written the Johnny Cash show, and he lived in LA for a couple of years doing quite a few other music shows and stuff. So it was a really great training ground for me, and this was my first job out of Ryerson. I dicked around for a little while. No, like being the PA on this. And I was just I was worried I couldn't get up each morning. You know what I mean? Like, that was the extent of my dedication to the work. You know, it was like, how am I going to get up at 9? Each day, like every day,
And you still don't get up at 9 every day, do you?
Yeah, no. Well, I neither did I. I showed up for my first day at work. Nobody was there. They're like, no, nobody comes in till like 10:30. I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna be good. And then they showed me my little office, and it had a record player on it, Eric, a record player. And they said, your job is to like play the records and write down the lyrics. And I was like, oh my God, that's all I'm good at. That's all I can do. It's my only skill. So,
do you know, actually, my first job in TV was, it was inserting the commercial, like music movies. Let's say that it was at Musique Plus, which is the French.
Well, my old boyfriend
music.
used to be the producer there.
Who's that?
Richard Maupetit. Look at his face.
No kidding, I know Richard.
Shout out, hey, Richard.
Yeah, right. I'm sure he's watching.
Bonsoir, Richard.
So my first job there, I would watch, let's say there was a 2 hour or 2 hour and 13-minute movie.
Yeah.
And they would have to fit it into 2 hours, or actually what an
like
hour
Under a
and,
Cherry Moon or something, or something like that.
Often it was Elvis movies.
Yeah, oh, gotcha.
And I would have to insert the commercials and take out a significant chunk to put it at exactly like an hour 46 minutes. But it was so much fun. I was, I was just watching, and I was like, this seems like a good place to put in a commercial, and we need to chop this much out.
Eh?
Yeah, and that was my first foray into that. But so, I mean, Tommy Hunter's show, some of the guests that you guys had.
It was amazing, because honestly, at this time, there couldn't have been a more embarrassing show to work on. Like not knowing what it was and just having gotten the job, because I was like, thought I was kind of cool, hanging out on Queen Street, whatever, indie bands, reggae, whatever, new wave. And then this Tommy Hunter show, I was like, oh my God, this job's so embarrassing. I'll probably get it, and then I did get it. And then almost my first thing was driving people to Hamilton for this 20th anniversary show. The first person I picked up at the airport was Conway Twitty. And, I had this vision of him, I don't know, probably from the Flintstones or something, with that black pompadour, because he was a little bit like that. And actually, I used to pick them up in a stretch limo. Stretch limo would come to my apartment on Bathurst Street, pick me up, take me to the airport, and we get the
That's not a bad job at all.
I know, it's so good. It was so good. And then, but my first one, there was a guy I actually knew driving the limo. It was this guy, Evan Spiegel, and he was kind of a weirdo, another Queen Street weirdo guy. He was a little bit older than me, and I said, "Oh my God, I have to pick up Conway Twitty. I have no idea what it looks like or anything." He said, "Oh, I know him. I'll come in," because he was like an art rocker, this guy.
Right, not Conway Twitty.
No, not at all.
Far from
But this
art
guy,
rock.
Evan Spiegel, it was just so weird. He was like, yeah, I'm into it. Because we were just like, Conway Twitty, what will that be like? And then he comes out and he's in his like pink velour tracksuit, full perm, you know, he's about this high. And you know, honestly, an hour later he was on the stage singing It's Only Make Believe, and I was just in love. It was just like, you're in a room with these country singers, they can really sing, really sing.
And
like,
you weren't a country fan up until that.
well, you know, I thought back about it. Like, I feel like I wasn't, but the 70s were very country tinged. Like, I used to love Linda Ronstadt and all that. And I mean, we used to hear, I remember having Hank Williams' greatest hits. We only had a few albums growing up, and that was one of them, you know. So maybe I was, but I didn't really know it. I thought I was cool, but really I was a country fan. But it was just more like, Tammy was on that show too, Tammy Wynette, and she, again, in rehearsal, she gets up, sings Stand By Your Man. Like, it was like me and the makeup guy, and he was bawling. He held my hand during part of it. But anyway, so it was magical for me, really. Like, it was like a musical show with all these incredible personalities. And
There were sketches too, right?
oh no, thank God. There used to be. There used to be. Not by the time we came, and Les took it over. He got rid of all the comedy, and there was some weird stuff we used to do. These films and stuff that were kind of weird. We used to have to write one joke.
Well, what was Tommy Hunter like? Was he a diva?
No, not really. No, I wouldn't say he was a diva. He was a real country fan, for sure. Like, he just adored like those original country stars like Roy Acuff and people like that. Like, he really, really adored them. Ernest Tubb, like all those guys, Jimmy Rogers, like that first generation, and they are actually all really great. Like, you know, you hear Ernest Tubb singing "Walking the Floor Over You." I mean, the guy is bang on. He's just great.
Did Johnny Cash ever come through?
Yes, Johnny Cash came, and it was like, that was my first year, I think. No, maybe not, because I think I was already having input into the writing, so maybe it was the second year. Yeah, and they came in a bus, and it was wintertime, like
They
probably
being him
December.
and June and
Johnny, June, Anita, Carter, and some other family member, one of the girls, but it wasn't Carlene. And then they had a longtime manager, Lou Robbins, who was like a cool, you know, New York Jew, but like in with these dudes, right? And I don't even know if you're allowed to say that, but that's what he was like. You know, to me, it was like a magical creature, like someone you'd seen in movies, you know, Lou Robbins. But very smart guy, very sophisticated guy. Anyway, I went to meet them at the hotel, and they're getting off a big bus, and they all have, I am not shitting you, floor-length mink coats on, all of them. It was like the people in Narnia, you know what I mean? The kids in Narnia, that's what they looked like.
Well, speaking of art rock, right? How far removed is it from art rock if you're wearing
honestly.
a mink
and
coat
like
down to the
he
floor?
also had the thigh-high Croc boots on, Johnny. He was all in black, like breeches, long coat, and like, I'm not joking, maybe not thigh-high, but like over the knee, crocodile boots. They were beautiful, but like insane. And I was just in awe. Like, my mouth was dry, you know what I mean? And I was just terrified too that something would go wrong. And where our studio was, Studio 7 that you see there, that's also where Kids in the Hall was done.
Oh, we have to talk about that after.
And it was really just like a crappy studio, but it was right down the road, like just 2 blocks away from Maple Leaf Gardens. So, first of all, the Johnny Cash band were so intimidating. Often, like, the stars would be really nice, but the band guys would be just like, you know, intense or weird, you know, weird in ways that we can't talk about here. Anyhow,
we can talk. That's the beauty of the show.
Johnny's band were just like, the boys had a joke the next year they were on where they couldn't get hotels because it was TIFF had starting to get really big, and they were booked in same week as TIFF, and we couldn't get them hotels, and it was crazy. So the band guys were staying out at the airline hotels, and this guy that worked on the show, like, he was hired after me, and he had this story of him saying, son, I'm an international musician. We don't stay in no airport hotels. So, yeah.
I love Johnny. Did you see?
They were scary. Oh, but I just want to say, so the band, the rule was they couldn't leave the studio. So the band comes up to me, they go, we're going to go down and see Iron Maiden over the gardens. And I'm like, oh no, nobody's allowed to leave. I'm like a 23-year-old girl. No, everyone has to stay in the studio. They're like, yeah, we're going to go over the gardens to see Iron Maiden. And then they leave. I was like, okay, come back. Come back later.
So Johnny Cash's band was out seeing Iron Maiden.
They went to go see Iron Maiden.
That's amazing.
Not to see the band, but like not to see the concert, but to like go and say hi to people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it was like at dinner time during the studio, right? And they had sound check there or something. I don't know. They met out there and they were all going to go see Iron Maiden. And I was like, please don't. And they're like, we're doing it.
What was your take on Walk the Line?
You know, that's a kind of good movie, but if you know the people, it just isn't good for you. Like, you know, June Carter was insane, you know?
Really?
Well, she was a spirited filly. Let's just say that, you know what I mean? She was a really spirited filly. You see, because I used to do all this research on all these other shows. Like I've done all these other music doc type projects and Hall of Fame stuff and like all these things. And so I've been, you know, down at, they used to have the National Network and they had like an amazing archive there because they really kept almost so many of these black and white shows.
The Nashville Network?
Yeah, it used to be the Nashville Network. I don't know where that stuff has gone. Hopefully Country Music Hall of Fame kept those archives because they had beautiful Kinneys, you know, because they would preserve them on film back then, right? They would just film them through the Kinney chain.
Really?
Do you remember that?
No.
Oh, we took that in school. Like I never knew what it was, but it was a way of filming the TV picture.
Oh, wow.
And that's how everything was preserved back in the day. So it was a great way to preserve things, you know, so it was all on this beautiful black and white 16mm film, and it lasted a long time. Anyway, I don't even know what I'm talking about now. What are we talking about?
Johnny, June
Carter Cash, yeah. So I saw a piece there of, and because they were all like, hey, June, how are you doing? What's going on? Like they would talk between the songs, right? Well, don't you look pretty today, Miss June? And she was like up on a fence. It was like a set piece, but she was literally on the fence, like, hey, how's it going? You know, and she was just like a wildcat, you know, and you just thought, wow, very sexy, very sexy in a way that, God bless her, Reese doesn't smell like, you know? Anyway, so and Johnny was just amazing. Like they were just amazing people. So those two, you know, Joaquin, hey, we love the guy, right? He's amazing. Who could even come close?
He did. I found he
did a great job. But for me, it was like the music just didn't move me the same way.
Is there a biopic or even documentary for that matter that you think really, musical in that sense that really gets it right or got it right?
Well, I don't know. I think it depends. If you don't know the artist, then like the Buddy Holly story with Gary Busey. Have you ever seen that? It is
so long ago.
Fantastic. You know, I saw that in the theaters, and it was just like amazing. And I mean, Gary Busey is insane, so he probably did a pretty good job. But you know, he wasn't Buddy Holly. So if you were, you know, somebody who was 25 years older than me went and saw that, they'd be like, oh, he's no Buddy Holly. But for me, it was like perfect.
Well, the reason I bring it up is that I was having a discussion about, specifically about music documentaries, which is obviously apropos with your Gordon Lightfoot documentary. And there's it seems to be there's two camps. There's either the ones who are kind of, you know, promotional tools, you know, to just kind of, you know, the Justin Bieber movie or the Katy Perry movie, or a perfect example is the Quincy Jones documentary that came out last year.
I haven't seen that, but I heard it was amazing.
It's great, but it was also directed by his daughter Rashida. After he did that interview in Vulture magazine where he basically said that the Beatles didn't know how to write songs, Elvis couldn't sing.
That was amazing. I loved that interview. That was the best thing ever, wasn't it? That was like the best interview I've ever read.
Ever. But he was hemorrhaging all kinds of, like, you know, PR gaffes. And I think his daughters wanted to, you know, kind of rein it in. So it was
I thought that was a pretty frank thing. It wasn't like he was really dissing them. He was talking from a musical point of view.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know?
No, it was brilliant. But then there was also MIA, the documentary that played at Sundance last year, that she saw and said, I would never have made a doc. She was unhappy because she thought that it didn't make her look cool and it was too political. And
I love that.
Again,
I took my daughters. I said, I think we should go and see this. I think it's important.
It was fantastic.
But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I mean, just the scene of her in the truck doing her dancing at the very beginning or the end, whichever it was, that was amazing to me. I loved it. But I am like a music doc lover, you know, like I don't understand. We've had some criticism of our film and, you know, whatever, you know.
What's the criticism?
Well, some people criticize it for being too positive, that we haven't gone deep enough into his dark side and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, we tried to make it about the songs and the music a lot.
Yeah. Well, I got that sense that you know, it's well, actually, here, why don't we see a clip?
Let's do it.
Do we have sound on the Gordon Lightfoot?
We'll have to test. We'll have to see. And
Okay, so
Well,
can
get back to us.
Can we do the which one? Maybe the Early Morning Rain, if we have that one.
let's give it a shot.
All right.
I feel like I'm
Oh, you're
doing
perfect.
some kind of strange. I'm just saying whatever.
I actually think we're still on. Are we still on the air?
I'm sure we are.
Yeah, but there's no sound.
There's no sound.
So we're gonna work to fix that.
There's no sound on the clip.
On the clip?
It's on our end, so I'm gonna fix that while you guys chit chat.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you know, when you talk about Gord, like, I guess it was one of those things when Joni and I, we tried to make this movie for about 5 years.
Really?
I was trying to do it. I'd written the proposal for it and everything just right around when we were done Match Game. After that, I wrote all the documents for it and stuff, and we shot a day with Gord. One of the interviews where he's in the church in Aurelia.
Yeah.
We shot one sometime, that might have been early 2013 or something like that, or at the end of 2012. I don't know exactly the time. I can't remember now, but because I can't remember whether this fall or spring in the thing. But it must have been the spring because I was here doing post on Match Game until November or something like that. Anyhow, we wrote all the documents and we just didn't make the funding first time around. Like these documentaries are more expensive than even a regular documentary because of the
music
clearance.
rights. Yeah, exactly. But
music rights and
is there not kind of
clips.
Can there be a fair use? You know, if I guess you're not criticizing it or
No,
or, yeah,
they just want the money.
Right,
You know, you're
yeah.
playing it in a movie. There's a lot of rules about it.
And even if Gord says you could use it, he might not necessarily own the rights to
yeah,
all the
Warner
songs
Brothers
and-
owns it
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah. So no, I mean, I guess you could figure that out if somebody had absolute control. And some people just go around it by not clearing the music at all. They do a more pirated version. But I mean, our show's going to be on. That film's going to ultimately be on CBC television documentary
you don't
channel.
wanna-
So
you don't wanna fuck with that.
Yeah, we can't take any. They're really strict about it, as a matter of fact.
But
Anyway, yeah, so it took us about 5 years to make it, and during that time, you know, we had people saying, oh, you know, like, people are like, oh, Gordon Lightfoot, couldn't you pick someone more boring? And stuff like that, you know, I'm like, really? Wow, I don't know. So we kind of toyed with how do we do this and what are we going to do, and you know, he's never made a major film about himself, and I said, I just really like to make it about the music, and of course, Joni agreed with me. It wasn't like I was fighting her on it. It was just more, you know, feeling that pressure, like, do we have to make the definitive Gordon Lightfoot movie? Does it have to tell his whole story? How much do we have to say about this and that? And, you know, we wanted it to be under 90 minutes because I find the movies are just too long now, and I think it's unnecessary, you know? Edit yourselves a bit, people. It's not... You know,
or else I would have had to have cut it down to fit it in the commercials on a Much
yeah,
Music
exactly. But movies are so sprawling now.
Yeah,
I don't
especially
get it.
superhero movies.
Yeah, and that's just action, which you know, and people love it. So, and it's putting people to go to the theater, so it's fun.
But when you talk about the quintessential, you know, do we make it the quintessential Gordon Lightfoot story? How do you feel that the film, like, what is it? Is it the quintessential Gordon Lightfoot story?
No, I don't think. I said to Joni, let's just not tie ourselves into that. Like, let's approach it like a project that we're doing, that we're going to see where it goes. I mean, obviously we have a plan and we've got things we want to cover and stuff, and but we wanted to do it mostly about the music because we feel like people have this idea of who Gordon Lightfoot is without really having listened to his songs that much, particularly younger people, right?
Right. I had no idea. Like, I learned from this movie to what extent he was like a fine-tuned, well-trained musician. That
Yeah.
he wrote his own lead sheets.
Yeah.
And that, you know,
It's kind of unique, in fact.
Yeah.
And the lead sheets that you see in the film are his. Like, excuse me, I'm having a little bit of a beer burp there. He got them out of his files. Like, going to his house is like really fun. Again, if you're a music nerd, like, there was a piece that got voted out of the film of him looking through, like, literally down in his basement. He just has stuff sort of here and there and everywhere. It's this gigantic basement. And he has a whole rack of clothes, and they're all the clothes that you see him in the movie, like all those denim shirts with his, like, bejazzling and stuff. He did them himself.
What?
Yes, he did them. I think one of his longtime girlfriends, Kathy Coonley, I think was the one that did a lot of that kind of stuff. And he said, yeah, I used to do it. I did this. I worked on this one, and I did this one. I did it as a kind of hobby. And the editor and I would say that to each other.
Well, I mean,
kind of hobby.
In this movie, he really comes off as, I was saying this to you before we went on air, that this kind of, it's a dichotomy because he's both this curmudgeonly, he seems almost bitter and sometimes, you almost look at him, he looks frail and
he's frail for sure. I mean, he's thin, but he's wiry as hell. Like, he's a very strong guy. He works out every day. Mm-hmm. He's 80 years old.
And he only eats cake?
I don't know. I'm not going to go on record with that. Right. I've seen him eat cake. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, right.
Sorry, I'm rubbing my mic probably or Anthonying it.
But okay, and what kind of guy is he? Is he?
He's like an artist. Mm-hmm. That's what he is. Have you been around a lot of artists, either musicians or painters or anything? They're all singular. Uh-huh. You know what I mean? But they're singular in similar ways, right?
And
he's really like that. I think he has been a very driven person, and I think he has a very Canadian personality of not totally feeling comfortable. I'm just going to break in to say I have the exact same shoes, and I wish I had them on. Like, wouldn't that have been good if I'd worn them?
I said to my girlfriend the other day, we were walking on a street sale, and I was like, there was all these shoes. I was like, nope, this for life. I'm now.
Totally.
I'm 100%.
One of the reasons I don't have mine on is because my daughters take them from me and then destroy them, and then they go, "Here, Mom, here's your shoes."
What do your daughters think of Gordon Lightfoot?
Well, you know what? It's been interesting because, first of all, my daughters have suffered a lot from my musical taste, and you sort of feel like you're trying to spare them. Like, I was a person who really didn't try to push my love of pop culture onto my kids because I didn't see it as very good for me necessarily.
Well, it's worked out.
It has, but there's been some dicey situations. I mean, our generation was just doomed anyway. We were like the younger brothers and sisters of the people going through the 60s. We were doomed. I was listening to Lou Reed Transformer in grade 8. In grade 8, just a New York, in my little bed, thinking, what's New York like, I wonder? What would heroin be like, I wonder, at my Catholic school? You know what I mean?
Right.
So our group, we didn't follow. We were the Sally Drapers of the world kind of thing. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
You pull out some gems, Martha.
We'd seen too much.
So what about...
I try not to push that on my kids, but people go to the movie, and of course... I have 2 daughters, and so they were like, "Mom, Gordon Lightfoot was a babe, And I'm like, "Yeah, he was a babe. Like, that's a big part of the Gordon Lightfoot thing.
Yeah.
He was a babe." And I don't know, my daughter was almost 24. She texted me the next day after the movie. I mean, obviously we had a premiere, and then we had a party, and it was
at his house.
No,
Okay.
No. We went to a bar called Open House in Toronto, where they also have a fried chicken place right inside the bar. Oh. So you can just drink, and then you can go to your fried chicken stand and just get it. So she was, obviously had a fun night and was excited for me. And my ex-husband is the executive producer, so it's like she's got mom and dad in this one.
Oh, wow.
And so she texted me saying, "I've been listening to Gordon Lightfoot on Spotify all day."
Really?
And my niece, she's around 30, and she was also very excited and proud of me and whatever at the bar. She was trying to make them play Gordon Lightfoot at the bar, and it's like a total hipster bar. And the guy was like, no. And she was like, "Martha, let's go home to your place. We can drink and listen to Gordon Lightfoot." So I was like, all right.
But I kind of feel that Gordon Lightfoot would be cool now, would be accepted by the hipsters. and
Maybe. I mean, he should be, I think, just because, he's kind of a singular guy in Canadian history.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's...
Neon Deflector says, "Hello, people of similar interest group time zone."
Oh, well, that's nice.
Okay, well, hello, Neon
Interest
Deflector.
group. I like interest group as a sort of sub-theme.
Hello, Neon Deflector.
I'd like Neon Deflector to expand on his interest group. I don't know what it is, whether it's just silly conversation or Gordon Lightfoot.
It could be. Yeah. Do you know, when I was a kid...
drinks, fried chicken.
Oh, how are we on the sound? Any news on that?
Some clips work, sound, some clips don't.
Okay,
I just wish I'd brought my computer because I could have been playing them from my friggin' Dropbox.
Oh, I think it's... no, it's not the Dropbox issue. So what... Do we have one that does have sound? Call them out on their bullshit, right?
We have some that play. The film, scene by...
But the match game has sound. All right. Well, we'll do match game. We'll come back to Gordon.
I sense a prejudice of this production.
I think so. All right. So this is, hold on, I want to set up this clip because, so Martha and I, and we will come back to Gordon Lightfoot because I have a lot to ask and say about that. But Martha and I worked on a match game 2012. This was the Canadian version. Martha was the producer of the show. I was researcher and in charge of, casting, writing some of the questions.
It was a bit of a job of all hats.
Yeah, I basically, and I was also responsible for taking care of our panelists in between.
In the studio.
In the studio, yeah. And so basically my job was to pour shots of vodka for them between.
Controlled situation.
And they got, I mean, we wanted that boozy atmosphere.
Well, that was traditional to the old match game that was on TV in the 70s. And it was on Comedy Channel, so we wanted to take advantage of that, the fact that they were kind of going to let us do that.
Yeah.
And just have like a kind of a more fun and silly time, I guess.
And they got a little drunk and they got a little rowdy. And, you know, I was telling you, I remember going out after with Tom Green and really tying one on that night. That was something.
He's a hard liver, that Tom.
And we had some great guests. I mean, you know,
Janine Garofalo.
Janine Garofalo, yeah.
Kind of like, that was like a dream of mine. Oh, here we go.
I became friends with Greg Grunberg.
Oh, yeah, he was sweet.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Sweet. What a cool guy.
Deb DiGiovanni, who was on every episode, as well as
and
Sean
Cullen.
Yeah.
They did season 2 with me also.
And he is a smart cookie. Holy shit.
Sean, for sure.
And then, you know, we had like Jonathan Goldstein, and we had, you know, some of the girls. So
Emily
Hampshire is now on Schitt's Creek, and she was the star of 12 Monkeys.
I know, amazing.
And she's doing really good.
Really well.
Anna Hopkins is doing a lot of.
You were kind of friends with her. Weren't
you?
Exactly.
She
was a lovely girl, and Anna. Yeah, I remember her quite well. Megan Rath.
Megan Rath was great too.
Those were the pretty girls.
I
Laura
also
Silovitz, obviously. Do you follow her on
I do love,
social media?
Yeah, I had a little.
Guys, follow Laura Silovitz on social media. She is good for a laugh.
I had such a crush on Janine Garofalo. So did I.
Janine Garofalo, me too. I loved her. I mean, she was like the poster child for coolness, right? In the 90s, was she not?
But she told me some weird, like, there was a hard luck story.
She was also, by the way, Iravana, very thin and tiny.
Yeah.
Like, you always had the impression she was a little bigger boned or something.
Not when we saw her, she was almost
skinny as anything.
Yeah. Like almost borderline.
I don't know about that. She had a Joy Division T-shirt on.
Well, that was cool, right? We also, so you know who I was most excited about was when we had Susie Essman. Being a huge Curb Your Enthusiasm fan, I was like, oh my god, swear.
We tried to get Jeff Garland too.
Yeah.
Maybe that was season 2.
Oh, you did get Jeff Garland?
I don't think we did. In the end, I can't remember. I was always on like we were getting them, we weren't getting them. No, I guess we never had Jeff. But Susie was great, and she was good fun, right?
And we had D.L. Hewley.
Hewley? And what's the name of the Canadian woman? She had gone to school here in Montreal.
Oh, right. Great story. She was.
What's her name?
Carolyn Ray.
Carolyn Ray,
And she was very adamant not to be called. Was it that she was called Carolyn and didn't want to be Caroline? Or she was very.
Carolyn.
Yes, and she was very upset if anyone called her Caroline.
Yes.
Which. The guest who we're going to show ended up calling her Caroline by mistake.
Right now?
So he is a very good friend of mine, a guy named Eden Goldman, or Eden Goldman, and he, you know, part of my job was for the contestants. We would always ask them something, you know, a little anecdote.
So they could chat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
chat with Darren.
And he was a good friend of mine, and so I knew that he did a Christopher Walken impression.
Okay.
And I remember saying to him before, "Hey, why don't you do your Christopher Walken impression?"
That would be funny, yeah.
And little did I know that I was throwing him into the fire because Sean Cullen does the greatest.
Exactly.
And so Eden, well, let's just roll the clip of Eden getting.
The poor Eden.
Yeah.
I already feel bad for Eden.
Well, I texted him. I said, "Do you mind if I play this?" He said, "No, go ahead." So,
I love it when people humiliate me.
This is Eden Goldman on
Go,
trying
Eden.
to do.
Thank you, Eden, for being on our show. That's what I'm going to say.
All right, go for it.
Get ready to make a mess.
Start at 3:22. All right.
Oh man, look at that.
Good times.
Oh man, yes,
There's
indeed.
Darren, fantastic host, Darren.
Yes, indeed, he was great.
Yeah, he was.
He's
like
doing well. He's been living in LA for a couple of years, and he's been doing a lot of writing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
With Janine. Not with Janine. Sorry, with Deb. She also lives in LA.
Yeah, she's
right?
lived in and been living in LA, I think, ever since the end of Match Game, I think.
I mean, I had such a blast working on that show. And we had this woman, what was her name? Peg? No,
Pam.
Pam. So Match Game is produced by, or is licensed by Fremantle, I guess?
Fremantle owns the format.
Owns the format. And she was at the
She
original.
had worked on the original show.
And now she travels around as it goes to different countries
Yeah.
to make sure that the spirit of Match Game is always infused in
each what do you call it? Incarnation.
And she looked even cooler than.
Is this it?
I think we're about to get to it. She looked even cooler than David Bowie.
No, she was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing, Pamela Usdon.
Love to Pamela. Okay, so here is Eden getting his due.
And we're back. Let's get to know our contestants a little better. All right?
Nice.
Eden, you got totally boned over on that Christopher Walken ambush back there. Can you have the? I'll give you the floor if you've got.
No problem.
Yeah. What do we got?
Here we go. So tell me, Frank, where you going tonight? Somewhere exotic like Hawaii or Tahiti?
That was great. From Captain Buchanan, right?
That's right, Captain Buchanan.
I love that movie. Yeah. All right. You redeemed yourself in my eyes.
Yeah. I see some faces over there. I'll keep my day job.
Perhaps
don't worry.
not Sean's. Sean, do you have a Christopher
I
Walken?
enjoyed it a lot, but I'm not sure if it's my favorite I've ever heard out of a man's mouth. Talking like Christopher Walken, who is an actor in movies.
The best part of a Christopher Walken impression is you can never tell when it's over.
All right,
Hell
so
Cauchemar. We're just going to have to describe the film scene by scene.
Right.
Starts with a shot of his house. He
Where
lives
does he
on
live?
up in what he calls North York, and he lives on in a very exclusive neighborhood. And he lives in like a house there. His wife, one of his wives, not his current one, his second wife made a move there, and he's still a little annoyed about it. But across the street from him, Drake is building like a friggin' Chateau Frontenac. It is so huge.
Hold on.
It is huge.
Gordon Lightfoot is going to be next
Drake
across the
lives
street.
right across the street.
I love that.
Right across the street.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, when I say street, it's it's like the Beverly Hillbillies or something.
Is this
kind of those
on
vibes.
the Bridle Path?
It's in the Bridle Path area.
Wow.
Yeah, and Drake's house is just insane.
I can only
The size of it. I'm not kidding.
And in the Gordon Lightfoot
Chateau
movie,
Frontenac.
well, there's a
Meets
clip.
the City Hall of Paris. It's in between.
God.
It's in between that. Very unostentatious, simple.
But there's a
dwelling.
clip of Gordon talking about Drake
Yeah,
in
well,
your
that
movie.
was so fun because honestly, we weren't expecting that at all. We were driving with him. We were driving with Gord on Yonge Street because he originally played at this place called Steele's Tavern on Yonge Street, and that was when like Ronnie Hawkins was. They used to play like these, they'd be there for like month, 2 months, or they'd play these regular
Like a residency
gigs.
kind
Yeah,
of
like
thing.
a residency.
Yeah.
That's all they had, I mean, Ronnie was saying, I got up to Toronto. People were so glad to see us. They never saw a musician, like that whole thing. Anyway, they were playing down the street at the Colonial Tavern with the band, who became the band, like Robbie and
Ronnie Hans. That was his original band, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
He kind of recruited them as teenagers,
Yeah.
right? And so they were playing down the street, and that's why Ronnie and Gord are such good friends, because they go back to that day. And at that point, Ronnie was kind of a name, as he said, like, he went north to Canada because there wasn't any
That's right, he
musicians.
was
There
an
were so many
American.
gigs, yeah.
Right.
He's from Arkansas.
Yeah.
I mean, Ronnie's joke is he grew up, like, he was good friends with Levon Helm. So he knew Levon from Arkansas.
Well, I thought Levon was Canadian too.
No, Levon Helm is from Arkansas, and
Okay.
Ronnie knew him. That's one of the reasons Levon ended up with those guys, is because Ronnie brought Levon up to be his drummer like way before.
Okay.
And he was a little bit older than those guys too. And Ronnie's joke about Levon, he says, "Oh, Levon, we live in the country. We live in the country. But Levon, you travel 40 miles by mule, swing on vines the rest of the way. That's where Levon lived.
But is Levon
swung on
still...
vines the rest of the way. No, he passed away, I think.
That's
Didn't
right.
he?
And he used to have these crazy jam parties at his farm.
Yeah, because I think he still lived around Woodstock where the Big Pink was and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've seen some of those. I saw a great one of him, maybe it was a video, singing...
the night they... No,
Free Your Mind.
Oh.
And the rest will follow.
Really?
Yeah.
Because he was a funky guy.
En Vogue, isn't that their song?
Well, originally Parliament Funkadelic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there you go. That makes more sense.
Well, theirs was Free Your Mind and Your Ass Will Follow. Right. But, okay, so...
I did a show with them.
With who?
George Clinton.
You did?
Yes. We had them on a Disney show that we did. We did this show in Disney World. It was the opening of the Animal Kingdom. And I'm going to get killed for this. I don't know what, Disney will come after you for years. We call it Disney's Animal Fuck Up. Disney's Animal Fuck Up. Because we did this show where we had all these people in it. Like we had Ladysmith Black Mambaza. And then they did this Tree of Life, the song, the Circle of Life, from whatchamacallit.
Lion King?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was cool. There was a Tree of Life in this park, because it was supposed to be kind of like Africa, right? It was Disney's Animal Kingdom, and it was kind of like Africa. In
Florida?
Yeah, in Disney World.
Yeah.
We were down there for a month. We shot like an actual Wonderful World of Disney thing about the park, and we had George Clinton. And,
because nothing says Disney like George Clinton.
Well, exactly. This is what we're thinking, right?
Spaceship in his diapers.
It was like this African village, Harambe, it was called. Harambe, and we had this thing, and they did this huge number. They did Tear the Roof Off the Sucker. And
One of my favorite songs.
It was so good, and it was just so amazing. I was pregnant at the time, and the guys from the band, it was like hot in Florida, but it was like George Clinton's band. The guys from the band were coming down to say to me, you shouldn't really be dancing so hard. And I was like, this is like a special moment. Anyway, they took the show to LA to edit it, and the Disney executives, not the ones we were working with who were super cool, but higher ups, looked at it and were just like, okay, we're going to take out with George Clinton, in with Drew Carey, out with...
Oh, God.
Yeah, so they things changed a little bit after that.
Well,
but it was an amazing night in Harambe, I'll tell you that.
Does that footage exist somewhere still?
Oh, probably not. I'm sure that's in deep Disney vaults. Disney has deep vaults. That's all I know.
Well, now that they have their Disney Plus channel, maybe they'll want to start,
I mean, people would pay to see that now.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
Come on.
George Clinton doing the circle of life, or
No,
Tear the Roof Off the Sucker.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry.
No, it was Ladysmith Black Mambazo. You remember them? They were
Of course, yeah.
They were the band that played
Boy in the Bubble, and
they played with Paul
Diamonds
Simon
Diamond on the soles of her shoes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Great
tell
stand-up.
me, who were, because you interviewed a lot of people for this documentary.
For Gordon's? Yeah.
Try and list off as many of them as you can, and then maybe we'll talk about...
Well, there was some close friends of Gordon's and people that really were in his circle, like Murray McLaughlin, Bernie Fiedler, the guy that owned what's it called? No, that Bernie Finkelstein, True North Records, the Riverboat Cafe.
Oh, right, yeah.
Excuse me, which was in Yorkville. And then the Good Brothers, longtime friends of Gordon.
Right, so who are the... Because I watched it and I was like,
Well, the Good Brothers are actually now most famous for being... Bruce Good is the dad of the Sadies. Of Travis, Travis and Dallas Good.
Right.
So he's kind of got that fame amongst the sort of this generation.
The hipsters, yeah.
Yeah, the dad of the Sadies. But the Good Brothers were kind of a country and like bluegrass band, and they were just always friends of Gord's. He used to have them open up for them and stuff. Mm-hmm. But in the clip, on the Sundown clip, you'll notice that Brian Good seems a little guilty there. That's all I'm saying. Sundown is a song that's kind of written about Gord's the girlfriend that he had at the time, Kathy Evans Smith, who ended up
she was the one who
overdosed
killed
John Belushi.
John Belushi, right?
I would never say she killed John Belushi.
No, she said that she
said it in the National Enquirer somehow.
Right.
So I don't know how sketchy that is. You know what I mean? Whether she said it or she didn't say it. When you're doing speedballs, you can't blame anybody else.
No, exactly.
Don't you agree?
Absolutely.
I mean,
not that I've done too many speedballs. But
no, I didn't mean that. But I mean, John Belushi, God bless, you know.
But that song, Sundown, I always thought I was surprised to learn it was about a girl, first of all, and a girlfriend, because it's pretty, like, Sundown, you better take care.
No, I think, Gord is very interesting also. A lot of the times in his songs, he plays with the you, them, her, him stuff. Okay. He does that a lot, and I don't know whether he does it. He just has something so clearly. When Gordon Lightfoot writes a song, this is just my opinion after having, after having spent this time with him, and I don't know if it's true, but I think when Gord writes a song, he really inhabits a world. Mm-hmm. Like, he gets in there, and it's like he's writing a short story. And this is what he's tried to explain to me, because I'm always trying to dig at him, like, oh, wasn't that about this? And he's like, nope, nope, wasn't. Or something.
Well, we do hear your voice off camera.
That's in Circle is Small,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I say to him, what is that song, The Circle is Small, about? Because he says, you come home and you don't know where you've been. It's all right for some, when the one that you're loving slips around. So to me, that sounds like a song about jealousy, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
And, the thing with Kathleen Evans Smith was she was hotter than a pistol, She was like a really good-looking girl. And, Gord wasn't a super faithful boyfriend. She was like, okay, let's do this. You get your one, I'll get my one, and they just drove each other crazy, I think. I mean, again, just my opinion. I'm not saying it's the facts.
But those lyrics, you better take care if I catch you.
Yeah, but I think that those are directed at, as Brian says, some people, mm-hmm. and some were friends of Gord's that might have been involved with her.
Oh, so it's
that's
not.
Who the song's directed to.
Okay, I gotcha. Because that's an angry song for a guy who seemed, Now that I've seen the movie, I see that there's more, I have a different perspective on him, but I always thought of him as the most, like, gentle, mellow guy. Although...
He has a very romantic side to him, and I think he has a very gentle side to him, but he's like any other artist who's huge. There's going to be a lot of dimensions there. You don't write that many songs if you're like a normal guy.
When I was a kid, I remember hearing the name Gordon Lightfoot, and I thought he was a superhero.
Oh, yeah.
Because of his name.
It is a kind of special name, right?
Yeah, Lightfoot. I thought the guy flew around with these, like, glow-in-the-dark feet.
Similarly, a lot of people think he has Aboriginal heritage because it has that kind of suggests that a little bit.
He doesn't?
No, I mean, he may, because he's Canadian back several generations. Almost anybody that's been around Canada for a couple hundred years definitely has some. Aboriginal blood of some kind. I mean, everybody in Ottawa has it. I know that.
I was watching the movie, and at one point I paused it because I even took a picture of it. I don't know if we'll see it on the camera, but it basically was the quintessential Canadian frame.
Is it the expo footage?
No, it's not even the expo footage. Hold on, I'll see if I can find it here. Yeah, okay, so guys, I don't know if, can we see that?
Oh, yeah. Well, funny story, this footage came to us from a guy, it's not funny, but this guy is named Jim Baird, mm-hmm. And he's a canoeist, and he is an extreme canoeist, this guy Jim Baird, and he's like an amazing character. You should have him on your show. I don't know, we could talk about the movies, but it'd make as much sense as this one does. He is like an old-fashioned adventurer, this guy Jim Baird, and he was actually on that show Alone in the United States, him and his brother. Have you ever heard of that show?
Alone?
No? Yeah, it's on like Discovery or one of those channels.
Is it one of those Survivor Man type shows? Okay.
It's a surviving
It's not naked and alone, it's just...
No.
Okay.
He's not naked, Jim. But it was like, it's like a real competition like Survivor, but for real. They drop you somewhere with nothing, like here's a knife. You get to have these certain things. Like, you actually have to have a fair bit of gear because it's really extreme survival. Anyway, him and his brother were in it, and they sort of played them like the hosers, because they were Canadian, the only Canadian competitors. And they were like, ho, ho, ho. And Jim and his brother are big guys, are big, like, gentle giant type guys, and they are like guys that have grown up together. Brother's like, hey, asshole, ho, 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 why don't you try the other one? All that stuff. Anyway, they won.
Really?
Yeah, and Jim's like amazing. He did this walk with his dog across the Ungava Peninsula.
Oh my God.
Yeah, by himself with his dog. And he said, like, some days I couldn't even motivate my dog. Like, my dog was just letting me die here, you know. just don't make me pull the sled anymore in this freezing cold ice.
And so his connection to Gord is that...
He doesn't have a connection to Gord. Like I said to him, hey, Jim, you got a yellow canoe, don't you? And he said, yeah, I do. Because Gord had a yellow canoe. So that's some of the footage that Jim took, but it's actually very representative of the actual trips that Gord went on, because Jim's a stickler. So he said, well, which rivers has he traversed? Which trips has he done? And I'm like, well, I had asked Gord, and then I go back to Jim saying, well, he did this one and that one. It's all these long river names, you know. And Jim's like, okay, I got some of that. All right, I'll do. So he actually had footage that really matched up with Gord's trips, and so that float plane coming down is Jim Baird's footage.
There is some gorgeous cinematography of looking from above of canoes. So I mean, just to explain, Gordon Lightfoot, I guess after he quit drinking, he discovered canoeing.
He did it before, because he used to do it a bit to dry out in the summer times and stuff. He would, or whenever, I don't know, before tours and things, he just got into whitewater canoeing, and he did he did 10 trips over 20 years. He says in the film that he did the first one. He said, I'll never do one of those again, because it was so like grueling. But then he just got really, really into it, and he was with a different group of guys, and from all walks of life and stuff. And it's something kind of interesting about Gordon Lightfoot, because he's really seen a lot of the country. And he also, Gordon Lightfoot's a little bit like Forrest Gump, because he's been around so long, and he's been at the top in the Canadian circle for so long. Like, he tells you these stories. Like, he once said, he told me, because he smokes a little weed, and
who doesn't?
Sometimes I do, and it's legal now, so great. Anyway, he said to me, I smoked a joint with Canada's two most famous Pierres, Pierre Trudeau and Pierre Burton, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
I smoked a joint with Justin.
Did you?
I'm just saying.
Oh my God, not Justin.
I'm not saying which Justin.
Yeah, right.
Is he watching? Is he watching?
But he told me that Pierre Trudeau, they were chatting somewhere at something, and he said, I'm going to go and do this trip, and it's here and there. And Trudeau said, okay, when you get to that plateau, be very careful, because, people's bags get swirled away. Like, Trudeau gave him a heads up for getting to this place on this river up north, and then when he got there, he was like, fuck, totally right. Trudeau warned me about this one, here we go. So it was just kind of weird.
So, okay, we were talking about some of the guests, and
sorry, yeah.
No, because
how do we even get there?
But that's fine, because because I also was talking about the cinematography.
Alex and Getty from Rush.
Yeah, okay, my favorite band of all time.
Yeah, and honestly, we shot that interview at Technicolor, which was our post-production facility, just because they said they'd let us use the location once in a while. And so we said, we got Rush coming in, and their office is quite close by, and they were, they're pressed for time, they're busy guys and whatever. We were very grateful for them taking that time to do it. And but everybody is like, of course, a recording geek, right, at Technicolor, right. And everyone was like practically lined up like the servants at Downton Abbey or something, Getty and Alec come by.
Actually, Getty is in town right now in Montreal at the Rialto signing, doing a book signing.
Oh, yeah.
So if I wasn't here, I would be with Getty.
I'm so sorry.
No, I'm happier to be with you. What were they like?
They're terrific.
Yeah.
Really lovely. I kind of know a little bit about them already. Like, I did, one of the Junos that I was on was the one they were inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow.
And Getty's brother is kind of a well-known guy in the sort of TV commercials circles. Yeah, he's a director and stuff. Anyway, Getty is, and they were just honestly lovely, just as lovely as they appear on screen. Like, they're like gentlemanly, you know what I mean? And just really sincere, no bullshit or anything, and just smart guys. I just have so much admiration, honestly, for Rush. I'm not really a fan of their music, because it's just one of my genres that I don't go to. I can enjoy a few of them, right? Close to the Heart comes on, Tom Sawyer, you're going to enjoy that. But I said to them at the very beginning of the interview, I feel ashamed, to even be here. Like, I feel like I should be giving up this seat to someone who really deserves to be in close proximity to Rush. But they're really nice guys.
Alec Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin, you know, we just gave it a shot because we listened to his podcast that he did with Gord. He does that podcast, There's the Thing, I think it's called.
Oh,
Here's the Thing.
Okay, yeah.
Here's the Thing. It's called Alec Baldwin, and he's a real music fan. And he actually, I just heard a little bit of it recently. One of him talking to Billy Joel. It was quite a lot of fun too.
That would be good.
It was fun. Billy Joel was playing the piano in it and stuff, and it was quite interesting. Anyway, and because it's Alec Baldwin, people really open up to him. So anyway, we could just tell. First of all, that he was a real, honest-to-goodness fan of Gord's, and that's why he had him on the show. I mean, he can clearly has no trouble booking guests. It's not like this show. Just kidding. Sorry. It's just because I'm on it. It's not the rest of it. It doesn't reflect on the other guests.
We've had some great guests.
I'm sure you have. I watched one episode and it was awesome.
Thanks. Didn't have technical problems on that one.
Oh, whatever. Anyway, Alec Baldwin, we just reached out to him because he had done the podcast and said, you know, we're doing this doc and would you care to be involved? And he just said, yeah, right away.
And nice guy?
You know, we didn't spend a lot of time with him. He said, I'll give you 20 minutes if you can do it in that time. And it needs to be kind of like near where either this place or that place, because he was doing his talk show at that time. So he said, okay, I can give you half an hour this day. And we were like, yeah, no problem, because, you know, he's not going to talk about Gord, he doesn't know him or anything. He's going to talk about him from a fan, and he's Alec Baldwin, so 20 minutes, that's going to be good.
What do you think of him as the host of Match Game?
Well, you know, he's a good-looking guy.
All right.
I mean, that show really overpowered us in terms of star power, right? Alec Baldwin's a great host. And,
but I thought we did
we did.
Yeah, we
and
were
that's
just
the
as
thing.
good.
I mean, the format really is good. And if you have some interesting people and some people there just to have a good time, it's not that hard to make that show a success, you know? And we worked hard on the questions. We worked hard on all the aspects of the show. And we cast the best people we could get. And we had some good guests.
I'm super proud of that.
And we had some good laughs, yeah.
And
I had, like, Catherine O'Hara was on season 2, and she really enjoyed it. Now, whenever she sees me, she's like, hi, you know, because I see her more because she's in Schitt's Creek, so she's around Toronto more. You know, I used to never see her because she was always in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel this is important to let you know, because you probably haven't watched Match Game with Catherine O'Hara in it. Mm-hmm. Catherine O'Hara went through her whole life, and she never had kids of her own. I think she adopted kids. And so she got to quite an age, like maybe 40, and she realized that all her organs were on the other side.
What?
Yeah, like people have this, so it's like, you know, how your heart's here, like hers is over here.
What?
All her organs are inverted inside her body, yeah.
Oh my God.
And then and so I just thought, like, how good is that? And her husband also said, I don't think it's that your organs are inverted, it's that your head's on backwards. Which I thought was pretty funny.
That's great.
Anyway, who knows
so
what this show is about, but I think we're learning things, people.
Right.
We're learning things about old people, I'm sorry.
Steve Earle.
Steve Earle was terrific, and again, he's got a good history with Gord. He's a guy that's really admired Gord, and we asked him to do it. He said yes right away. He told us a funny story, which we just couldn't fit into the movie, of the first time he came to Toronto. I guess maybe they were both on Warner's or whatever record label they were on or whatever, because he was with Cam Carpenter. And
Karen Carpenter?
Cam Carpenter, he's a A&R guy from Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was Cam. Anyway, he was like, wow, you know, like, does Lightfoot ever blah, 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 or whatever? And he was like, Cam was like, yeah, let me make a call, something. He phones and he goes, yeah, we're going to go over there. He said he could come over. And Steve Earle was like, oh, holy shit, like, okay. You know, all right. And then he gets to Lightfoot's house, not the one where he's living now, but when he used to live closer to downtown in Rosedale. And Cam just says, okay, we'll pick you up here in like 2 hours. And he was just like there on the driveway to the Lightfoot's house. And he was kind of like, holy shit, like, now what do I do, you know, kind of thing. But he knew that he was coming, right? So he just went and knocked on the door.
Wow.
And he said, you know, it's kind of, you know, the way he talks like this. And he's like, it's kind of awkward at first. We didn't really know what to say. 2 musicians, he's kind of scratching our heads. And then I said, is that your guitar? And Gord picked his up, and then I got one, and then the rest of the time went by quick, you know, kind of thing. And then that night he was playing, I guess, the Phoenix or one of the downtown venues, and Gord actually came, and he said they saw that Gord was there, or they guessed they knew, and they played a quick cover of Sundown.
You know, it's funny you mentioned, so both Rush and Steve Earle are in that documentary, and I have this memory of when I was first really getting into music, like on my own, not my parents' albums
Yeah.
or anything like that. And I went to a record shop here in Montreal called Phantasmagoria that no longer exists.
Yeah.
And I was with my dad and I wanted to buy an album, and I was, watching a lot of Much Music at the time. And, I ended up with Rush's A Show of Hands in one hand, and Steve Earle's Copperhead Road in the other.
Man,
and
that's beautiful.
And I said to my dad, I was like, I don't know which one to pick. They're both so good. And he says, and this is very unlike my dad. Usually he would say, well, just choose one. He said, you know what? Maybe he was having a good day. He said, take both. And to this day, those, my musical appreciation really kind of went in both those two directions. And those are still
somewhere between.
Between.
What do you call the music of Rush?
Progressive rock.
Prog rock
Yeah.
and alt country.
And alt country, yeah, exactly. Throw a little hip hop
well,
in
your
there.
band was a little bit like that. The band that you were playing in when I knew you was
Which
it
band
was a
Red Elite?
no, it was had a long name.
Oh, USA Out of Vietnam?
Yeah, USA Out of Vietnam.
Oh, that was very proggy
real,
too.
It was prog rock with other stuff mixed in. Like it was a
very
little,
heavy,
it was
slow.
a bit of a
kind stuff.
melange.
So who else was? Oh, you also had Burton and
Burton and
Randy.
Randy. Yeah, and they were really great. I mean, Burton and Randy. I mean, I don't know where they're at in their relationship. I mean, they have like one of the longest relationships in rock and roll, obviously. But we interviewed them months apart, and I don't even know if they talk anymore, or they don't. They're not close. I don't think anymore. But they told that exact story about coming to see Gordon in Montreal, the two of them.
Oh, yeah?
Because, we intercut the story because even though we interviewed them months apart, they both said, we went to Montreal, we were on tour at the Guess Who, and we went to Montreal, and Randy says, Gordon Lightfoot, people didn't really know who he was in Montreal yet. He wasn't Leonard Cohen. Mm-hmm. And because Leonard Cohen was already pretty famous in Montreal. And Gord was... Roll to the Bones was my introduction.
So Irvana says,
is
Love Rush.
Love Rush.
Roll the Bones was my introduction to them. Irvana, if you weren't already the coolest person in the world, you've now
totally.
You've
I love your audience
respect.
on this show.
Me too.
Love your audience.
All one of them.
Yeah.
No, Irvana, yes, Roll the Bones. I could even do the rap, but I won't. But I could.
It was big for you.
Yeah. Exactly. So we Burton and
Be cool or be cast out. I used to like that one too.
Do you know
I just
actually?
knew the hits, like whatever's on Much, maybe.
Well, stay tuned. By the way, I have a very cool Rush thing coming out on YouTube soon. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Neurotica is a favorite track.
Favorite track is Neurotica. Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. Okay, so new school Rush.
Yeah, new school Rush. That's great though.
Yeah, absolutely.
They'd love that, right? They'd love it.
Steve Earle, Rush,
right.
Same time. Who else was in the doc? I'm trying to remember now. There's so many.
Anne Marie, Ronnie Hawkins, obviously. Yeah. Again, Ronnie's like an old friend of Sarah McLachlan, Murray McLachlan. Again, Murray was, very much. Murray started hanging around the Yorkville scene when he was around 15 years old.
Is Murray still married to
Denise
Donlan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very
that's
much.
A great. That's a great Canadian power couple.
It really is, and we met Murray on the shores of Stony Lake. It was a very Canadian
it's a beautiful background.
Yeah, it was a gorgeous day. Yeah. I'd already gone for a swim. Like, it was really hot. It was really beautiful. And I just said, I just really want to get in the water. And Murray said, well, we don't, it's going to take us an hour to set up. So I was like, okay, I'm going in. I went for a swim, and I think it kind of impressed him in some weird way. And I was like, I do it all the time, It's like summertime.
Who was your favorite guest of all the interviewees? Who do you think had the most insight?
I think in some ways Murray McLachlan, because he's just a very well-spoken individual also. I mean, that has a lot to do with it. And he was around a lot of the time, and he knows Gord. Mm-hmm. And he knew Kathy, and he was a part of that whole scene that he's talking about, the circle is small.
Right.
That's the song that we use to illustrate that time. Because it really has to do that. Like in the song lyric, and probably Montreal is the same, and Toronto's very much like that. Like, the city is large, but the circle is small. Like, there's only so many people that are hanging around the music scene or entertainment scene, whatever.
Especially here in Montreal.
Yeah, there's more actually now, and probably what you have here in Montreal is like what Toronto had then. Although you've always had a lot of arts scene here in Montreal as well. But anyway, it's like a big city, but there's only a few. There's not that many people involved in the scene that they're involved in, and that was the problem.
I am curious about something, though. You bring up Montreal and Gordon Lightfoot, and I had this discussion recently with some friends in the Francophone community, and it's this weird phenomenon where Gordon Lightfoot, I think, is royalty in the rest of Canada, but I don't think...
I don't really know who he is.
Yeah, did you get much of a sense, or is that even on your radar as to how he is, you know, the relationship of French Canada with Gordon Lightfoot?
I really think that...
Or even Americans, for that matter?
Well, Americans love Gordon Lightfoot, and they're, you know, it's kind of interesting. Certain American states and places, like Gordon was always huge in California, and that's why we go out of our way to mention that L.A., San Francisco, all those places, he was quite big. And I think the folk rock genre was huge there as well. And that sort of up and down the West Coast is kind of like that. And he was also very big in New York and kind of like the New England states, you know. But Gordon was always very popular in Nashville amongst musicians. And he recorded in Nashville when it was kind of unpopular to do so before, because he wasn't particularly cool. And it was actually after he went to Nashville that Bob Dylan went to Nashville and recorded there.
Oh, and there's such a great moment in the documentary when you have Bob Dylan presenting the award to Gord.
Yeah. It's so
1980s Bob Dylan.
Yeah, so interesting. Well, we were there that night too. I was in the audience that night, and then, like I say, the executive producer of my film, I was married to him for many, many years, and he was just started in the TV. He actually worked on Tommy Hunter. That's where we met. So he started a couple years after me, and that night we'd been going out for like 6 months, say, and he was the guy that was supposed to bring Bob Dylan to the stage. And I knew that because, you know, you'd have your, like, you'd be talent wrangling, right? And he was, because he was like senior and responsible, he was probably 25, he was assigned Bob Dylan. And we know now that Bob Dylan just smoked weed the whole day. The whole day. Like, he would have showed up at rehearsal at 1 o'clock, and like that was at a time when people were not doing that, or they were doing it somewhere else. They weren't doing it like in their open dressing room with like clouds of weed smoke pouring out of the backstage of it.
Well, he also introduced the Beatles to weed, right? So
yeah. So anyway, but it was like scandal, you know, mini scandal. I mean, he could have done anything. He could have had a fire going in there that was like Bob Dylan's on the Junos. Yes, everybody was pretty excited about it. But I was in the audience that night. And we don't show it, we cut it down to a very, like, it looks like a normal exchange. But really, it was one of the weirdest things that ever happened on TV, like on my watch. I had nothing to do with the show, but it was like this. Anne Marie says, and here he is now, Bob Dylan. Literally, they cut wide, that big wide shot of an award show. Nothing happens. Like, for so long in TV time, you know? Like, imagine going to the Grammys. Here he is, Bob Dylan, and just like nothing. Nobody, nothing, not a sound, and just like for a really long time. And so for me, I was thinking, what's going on? Like, John's supposed to have Bob Dylan on the stage. Like, why is Bob Dylan not on the stage?
They were smoking weed in the back.
And then no, not this guy. And then he wanders out kind of like, oh my God, what's going on? And it's the 80s, right? Like, it's so 80s, that clip, isn't it?
Oh
it's
my
just
God,
incredible.
Yeah. He's got like shoulder pads and a long dangling earring.
Yeah, well, he's totally dressed as Prince.
Oh, that's
anyway,
true.
No, 100%, 100%. But he comes out, and they have something rigged so that there's like a few monitors, because monitors are cool in the 80s. And he looks in, and then you can see, you know, the many reflections of Bob Dylan in the monitors. So he stops, and he looks at that for a while. And then he heads to the podium. So it's like, in TV time, he's like taking 40 seconds to just wander around, look at himself for a bit, and then get to the mic, you know. It was just, everybody was on pins and needles. So you're just like, holy shit, what's this going to be?
You also have a Greg, why am I blanking on his name? Bad Religion.
Greg Graffin from Bad Religion,
right.
Yeah.
Who so the backstory is that you contacted me when...
We thought he was going to need a ride.
Yeah, from Trois-Rivières, which is a relatively medium-sized city in Quebec, from there to Montreal, and you were like, do you want to go pick up
could you do it?
Greg and drive him back to Montreal? And I was like, what an amazing opportunity to just sit and talk to a punk rock legend.
Well, that's why I thought of you, right? Yeah. Because I thought, well, Eric might do it. It's kind of shitty because it was Canada Day weekend or something, wasn't it? I don't know.
Quebec, we don't celebrate.
Yeah, true. What's that? Yeah. Canada Day? Who cares? Well, I don't know. I thought you had a day off, but maybe not. Anyway, I just thought you might like it because I knew, you know, what a music fan you were, and I knew Greg was a pretty smart guy. Like, he's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, he's a PhD.
I know, he's a PhD.
What is it, bioevolution? Like
I don't know, and he was also part of that, another friend of mine from New York was part of a church of the, oh, I can't remember the name of it anyway, it was weirdness.
OSAB says infinite monitors and lots of weed sounds like a bad combination
It
for live TV.
absolutely was, believe me. In 1987, it was unheard of. We were just freaking out, and I wasn't even working on the show, but it was just like, ah!
I want to talk.
Oh my God! I just want to say that night we got invited to Gord's after party because that was Gord's Hall of Fame award. Right?
Which one? The Bob Dylan
one that Bob
one?
Dylan's giving him. So again, I'm in the audience. We're at the show that night, and we get invited to the after party. And so we were at a table that night with Ronnie Hawkins, Bob Dylan, Bob Dylan's two crazy ladies, chicks that he was with, gypsy women kind of, and Matt Dillon.
Matt Dillon,
And
like the actor?
And the randomest girl in the world that was with Matt Dillon. We were just like, wow.
God.
Yeah, it was so weird. We were at a table with Matt Dillon and Bob Dylan.
And this is Matt Dillon in, like, you know, around the time of The Outsiders, where he was
1987.
like... So he was like the ultimate cool guy.
He couldn't have been any cuter. Uh-huh. He was so attractive, but tiny. You know?
Really?
Small. Like, these actors are like skinny, very skinny. Anyway, Matt Dillon, he was very, very cute, very handsome, but like he was hanging around Toronto and he was very excited about how cool Toronto was, which was like for us, like the last thing we wanted to hear. He was like, hey man, you ever been to the Cameron? It's so cool there. We're like, yeah, it is, but like we don't want you to tell us or something. I don't know. But anyway, he was with believe me, I would have tried to work my charms on him, but he was with like a really random chick, but sexy, but super random.
Bob Dylan dressed like Prince with his gypsy women.
But you know, I had read, yeah, he had the two gypsy ladies. And this was Bob Dylan at the table during that whole period. Like during the whole period we were there, like say an hour. That was him the whole time. And a friend of mine who drank a lot, it was after last call. Like the last call was 1 o'clock in Ontario at that time. So we get to the party and like 5 minutes later it's the last call and you can't drink anything. That's what life in Ontario was always like.
Yes, back in the 80s.
I want you all to know that. Yeah.
Not anymore.
Oh,
now
no,
it's cool, right?
Marginally better, yeah. It's much better. Yeah, it's much better. Anyway, a friend of mine actually tried to steal Bob Dylan's drink at that table. That's one of my best rock and roll stories of all time. Nobody has any alcohol, nothing. Bob Dylan's got the biggest snifter, like hotel. We're in a hotel, like rooftop bar kind of thing. He's got an old-fashioned, like, I don't know, Sammy Davis Jr. type brandy snifter, and it is fucking full of brandy. Like it's like a whole bottle of brandy in a drink. And no one else has any alcohol on this table, and I've got a friend that's like really, really bad. He's really, really bad. And I just see him, gets into a position where he's kind of between Gypsy Lady and Bob's like this.
The whole time?
Like this. Oh, he said a little bit. He's not looking at us. It's like he wishes we were all dead. He really wishes we were dead. All of a sudden, Rob's hand comes down, and I think, oh my God, he's gonna try and steal Bob Dylan's drink. Like, you know when you have a friend where you're just like, oh my God, now what is he gonna do?
Please don't, please don't.
Please don't steal Bob Dylan's drink, and he's going for it, and I'm just paralyzed. Like, I can't do anything.
Is he doing it because it's Bob Dylan and what a story this would make?
No, it's the only alcohol in the room. He doesn't care who owns it. He's like, I can't resist this cognac. And he just goes in, and this guy is good at stealing booze. Can I say that? He is good. He wants it, he wants to get it. And I just see his hand come in, and this is Bob Dylan, totally out of it, and he just goes like this. He just, right at the moment when Rob's hand grows near, he pulls it like 2 inches towards himself, like, you gotta get up pretty fucking early in the morning to steal my drink, dude.
I'm fucking Bob Dylan.
I'm Bob Dylan, okay? I've had other people trying to steal my drinks.
You're not taking my
You are not gonna do it.
We have like 5 minutes left.
Oh my
and
God,
we didn't
I'm
even
sorry.
talk about. No. Are you kidding? So even despite the fact that we can't roll clips, this has been an incredibly engaging conversation.
I made a movie, okay?
Yeah.
I know you don't believe me because we haven't had any visual sign of it, but it's real.
And you should go see it. And it's called
Gordon Lightfoot. If you can read my mind, thank you.
That's great. The links have been posted in the chat.
God bless.
Yes.
Yes,
there we go.
I have literally made a film.
So let me ask you a couple of questions. One of the clips is about Gordon talking about Drake. They're now neighbors.
Oh yeah.
What do you think Drake thinks of sorry, not Bob Dylan, of Gordon Lightfoot?
It's hard to say. How can you possibly know? But Drake seems to be the kind of guy that has some respect for heroes and stuff. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, a lot of musicians, like, I'll tell you what, one guy that I really, really tried to get for this film was Chuck D.
Oh.
Because Chuck D, like about 5 years ago, I just follow him on Twitter. You know, I love Chuck D. He's a cool guy, and he's kind of like my age. He's like a voice of my generation, right? Chuck D. One year, he just tweeted out, "Hey, am I the only black dude that likes Gordon Lightfoot?" And I was like, "Hey, I'm doing a documentary about the guy." So we tried to get Chuck D, but he was on a really big tour, and you know, they sort of were like, "Hey, we're really honored. I don't know if we can make this happen," and blah blah blah, and we just couldn't make the dates happen.
Oh, that would
so
have been
can you
super
imagine?
cool, yeah.
So I was a little bit sad about that, but it was kind of nice that Lenny Waronker, he's one of the guys. Excuse me, Lenny is like a producer. He signed Prince.
Really?
Signed Prince
Wow.
to Reprise, Warner Reprise.
Oh, right, the Reprise guy. Yeah, exactly.
The
yeah.
Reprise, exactly. Like, he used to produce Gord's albums.
Wow.
And he grew up with Randy Newman. They grew up together, and his dad was like an orchestral composer, arranger, conductor type guy. Anyway, Lenny Waronker. Where was I going with that? What are we talking about?
We were talking about Chuck
Drake,
D.
Chuck D.
Yeah.
He says, you know, people like Gordon Lightfoot and they're starting to like him more. Like, he had kind of a bad rap for being so friggin' square, and now people don't care anymore, and they're just listening to the music and what it means and stuff, and they're getting into it.
Well, that's why I think the timing of your documentary, and so actually, well, before we get to where people can see it and all that, let's talk about some of your favorite movies, because we have like what, 2, 3, 4 minutes
rapid
left? 5
fire.
minutes. Rapid fire. All right. So. And you sent me a comment after. You're like, I hope my list wasn't too dour.
Yes, I felt it was a doer list. A doer list of movies.
So Bertolucci, The Conformist, 1900. Have you
ever seen them?
No.
Guys, if you like movies, The Conformist is one of the most beautiful movies you'll ever see, and it's so fucking weird. It is just the weirdest. And 1900 is a treat. Like, it's 4 hours long. It's like a communist manifesto, but there's like amazing scenes in it. You know, you want to see Robert De Niro doing coke? Right there, 1900 will give it to you. You want to see Dominic Sanda having weird, possibly lesbian things going on? See that. You like Gerard Depardieu, you like Burt Lancaster, boom, 1900. It's got it all. It's like, it starts with Giuseppe Verdi is dead, and then Donald Sutherland's like a horrible fascist in it. It's like amazing. It spans 4 decades of Italian history, right? From 1900 to, like, you know, the rise of fascism and everything, to like to the war. I think to the end of the war.
To Mussolini. Okay.
And it's just, it all happens. It's like I say, it's like a communist manifesto. It's a sprawling film. Like, some of it's just amazing. Some of it's, what the fuck is this? It's great. And The Conformist, beautiful.
Okay. Chinatown.
Chinatown, what can I say?
Yeah.
My older brother smuggled me in to see it at a drive-in because I wasn't old enough to see it. And it was just amazing. Like, I didn't even know what it was about, and it was amazing. You know, I couldn't understand the water plot at that time. You know, it's kind of, I couldn't get that, but it was still amazing. And
that
then
was Polanski?
Polanski, yes, of course.
I'd forgotten about that.
I know, like that. He's the worst Me Too, not the worst, but he's like the original Me Too guy. But at the same time, they definitely nailed him because he was, you know, not American.
Yeah, exactly. Shampoo.
Shampoo is just like, that's Hal Ashby, and it's just like a funny, crazy thing. It's set around the election of Nixon, and it's kind of a sex romp, and it's just like the best for hairstyles and fashion. And Carrie Fisher makes her debut. She's about 14, 15.
Oh, that's right. I
She's
forgot
the
about
daughter that's, you know, trying to seduce Warren Beatty, and he's just having sex with a bunch of beautiful women. And
as you do.
As you do, and
Yeah.
it's kind of political and sexy, and it's just a lot of fun, Shampoo.
My Left Foot, The Boxer, both Jim Sheridan. There Will Be Blood. Oh.
Not really. That's just my Daniel Day. Like,
okay, right, exactly.
Daniel Day. That was like, it's not a Jim Sheridan. That's obviously PTA.
Yeah.
But I mean.
PTA, oh my God. So
I know.
everyone who comes on the show generally talks about PTA, and one thing that's not on this list that pretty much anyone who comes on this show is supposed to like is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Well, you know, I actually held off putting that one down.
Really?
Yeah, I really love that film so much.
It's a prerequisite. Every single person that I've had on this show.
I sort of felt it was kind of like too obvious. It was like, you know, other cool people can claim that one, but I've seen that several times. It makes me cry.
Oh, it's so amazing.
It's just like such a good movie. I really love it.
No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, that one was just, again, fun, right, with the Coen brothers. And
I remember I interviewed them at...
And Miller's Crossing, though.
Yeah, amazing.
But Miller's Crossing, like, The Conformist has a scene in it that was the Conformist, I believe, really Coppola looked at that one when he was making The Godfather. And when you look at The Conformist, you'll see that. You'll see it. And same with Miller's Crossing. Miller's Crossing, that scene where they take them out to the forest, there's a scene in a forest in The Conformist that you just know.
So this is like the blueprint for all the amazing
I wouldn't
movies.
say blueprint, but I think The Conformist is a film that a lot of people don't know or haven't seen. Like, we used to see it like all the time. It was always on at the rep cinemas, and we'd be like, Conformist? We'd be like, yeah. It's a really good movie. And you just, the look of it, like the pictures are insane. Insane. And definitely it informed, definitely The Godfather, definitely Miller's Crossing. Miller's Crossing is one of the great, you know, old time, that gangster movie.
My favorite,
Steve Buscemi.
my favorite Coen brothers actually is both from that era, Barton Fink and Hudsucker Proxy.
Yeah.
Oh, such good movies.
Hudsucker Proxy, I don't know. I'm not a super big fan, but I would watch that anytime it was on TV. You know what I mean?
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, Blood Simple, I think, is an overlooked gem. You know, I mean, that was the one that hooked us on it. We were happy to see that film when it came out. It was just like, all right.
I'm going to go through the rest quickly because we're almost out of time. Desperately Seeking Susan. Interesting choice.
That was just a lot of fun for me, and that's, again, my total zeitgeist. Madonna is a chubby treat in that one, and just like, she's like, that was when Madonna still hadn't become her, you know, the big Madonna, and she just plays the perfect role of someone who's giving the straight guy such a hard time. Gary, the hot tub king. He's married to Roseanne Arquette.
Yeah, exactly.
And Aidan Quinn. We'd never seen Aidan Quinn before, and he was just gorgeous in that movie. And also, little Robert Joy, who, you know, was originally from Newfoundland, a member of Codco. He's in... He's Susan's boyfriend.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Who directed
Madonna's real boyfriend. Susan Seidelman, she was...
There's your woman director.
Well, she had also made a film with Johnny Thunders in it. I can't remember the name of it right now. It's... Anyway, with Johnny Thunders, I checked that one out too, if you like Johnny Thunders.
So, Gimme Shelter, Cry Baby, Bad Timing, and...
Bad Timing, you ever seen that?
What's Bad Timing?
Bad Timing, see it. It's an effed up movie. It's Nicholas Roeg, Teresa Russell, Art Garfunkel, and Teresa Russell in a crazy relationship like you've never seen. You've lived yourself, but you've never seen on film.
Okay.
It's sexy. It's insane. Harvey Keitel is in it. It's an early like starring role for Harvey Keitel.
Wow.
And Art Garfunkel's just like a mess. He's just like a nervous wreck and a mess in it. And Teresa Russell's one of the most unbridled chicks you'll ever see on the screen. It's fucking awesome.
You should have your own movie show.
This is why I got onto yours. I can't get one. No one give me one. I'm too freaking old. It's the old person movie show.
No, you're welcome to come anytime.
I guess Siskel and Ebert, they milked it for quite a while.
Well,
God bless them both.
Did you ever see that documentary about Ebert?
No.
Oh,
was it good?
Yeah, but it's sad. I mean, you know,
I know.
And it's...
But he had that beautiful wife, and they had a great relationship, and he had a great run. It's just a terrible disease, and terrible to die that way, but...
What a great note to end on.
Yeah, it's cheery.
So now's the chance for you to tell people where they can find you and follow you and where they can see the movie.
Oh my God, please do not find or follow me. It will be such a disappointment to you all. I am not living a very exciting life on social media.
I like what you post, but...
I know, I do post a little bit. Well, my name is Martha Kehoe, and that's, I think, what my Instagram handle is. I have a fake Instagram account that I made by mistake, which is martha.kehoe. Do not follow that one. I have a very few number of people following me, but it embarrasses me because I don't post anything there. It's just Martha Kehoe on Instagram. And the film is being repped across the country by Kino Smith. So I think if you go to the Kino Smith, it's Kino Smith.com. They have all the dates for the film and stuff like that. And it's playing in
cities across Canada.
It's playing in cities across Canada, and then at the end of the year, sometime, it's going to play in New York, the Film Forum. They've asked for it. It's playing a rock and Doc festival in London, UK. Like, we're just getting that rolling now.
That's
the film's
amazing.
only been out since April 27th was our debut, so it's only been a couple of, like a month and a half or something.
Well, I can say as a music fan, as a movie fan, as a history fan, I really, really liked it. And as someone who always enjoyed Gordon Lightfoot's music, but thought that he was a superhero with light
Yeah,
up
I really
feet.
didn't have a feel for who he was as a guy.
I learned a lot from it.
Well, maybe that's your genres coming together, the prog rock and the alt country. That
Exactly,
kind of makes sense, Eric. It's all going back to that.
It all comes full circle.
That's right.
Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Eric. I hope I haven't been too crazy.
You're the perfect guest. And if you do come by, if you're coming through town again, we still have so much more to talk about. So.
Yeah, we could talk about a lot of genre pictures.
Right, exactly. And check out the movie. It's called If You Could Read My Mind, and it's going to play on CBC.
At the end of the year, it's going to be on CBC Television Documentary Channel. Gordon Lightfoot, If You Could Read My Mind. It's called.
Should we sing it out?
Would you?
If you could read my mind.
Oh, you've got some timbre there.
Okay, that's it. Thank you guys very much. Thank you, Martha. Stay tuned tomorrow. Cosplay Cave. Who's dressing up?
Cosplay Cave. That sounds cool.
Nobody
knows. It's Cosplay
Nobody
Cave.
knows, but come for the Cosplay Cave because who? Mina Doko is going to be here tomorrow, 6:30. We'll be back next week. I don't even know who my guest is. Maybe it'll be Martha via phone.
I'm coming back with clips this
right,
time.
Exactly.
This time there's going to be audio-visual proof that I made a film.
So thank you, Martha. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you,
See you
Eric.
next time.